Welcome to Real Life. I hope you're having a great day. Today's episode features footage of the tragic 1934 Morro Castle disaster. The SS Morro Castle was an ocean liner of the 1930s that was built for the Ward Line for voyages between New York City and Havana, Cuba. The 480-foot-long ship was named for the Morro Castle fortress that guards the entrance to Havana Bay. Morro Castle began her maiden voyage on August 23, 1930. She lived up to her expectations by completing the maiden 1,100-mile southbound trip in just under 59 hours, and a return trip took only 58 hours. Designed for 489 passengers and a crew of 240, she was quite... Over the next 4 years, the Morro Castle and her sister ship, Orient, were luxury ship workhorses, rarely out of service and, despite the worsening of the Great Depression, able to maintain a steady clientele. Their success was in part due to a prohibition, as such trips provided a relatively affordable, and more importantly, legal means of enjoying a non-stop drinking party. Their reasonable rates also attracted Cuban and American businessmen and older couples, making the ships a microcosm of America. The final voyage of the Morro Castle began in Havana on September 5, 1934. On the afternoon of the 6th, as the ship paralleled the southeastern coast of the United States, it began to encounter increasing clouds and wind. By the morning of the 7th, the clouds had thickened and the winds had shifted easterly, the first indication of a developing nor'easter. Throughout that day, the winds increased and intermittent rains began, causing many to retire early to their berths. Early that evening, Captain Robert Wilmot had his dinner delivered to his quarters. Shortly thereafter, he complained of stomach trouble and, not long after that, died of an apparent heart attack. Command of the ship passed to the chief officer, William Worms. During the overnight hours, the winds increased to over 30 miles per hour as the Morro Castle plodded its way up the eastern seaboard. At around 2:50 a.m. on September 8th, while the ship was sailing around 8 nautical miles off Long Beach Island, a fire was detected in a storage locker within the first-class writing room on B deck. Within the next 30 minutes, the Morro Castle became engulfed in flames. As the fire grew in intensity, Acting Captain Worms attempted to beach the ship, but the growing need to launch lifeboats and abandon ship forced him to give up the strategy. Within 20 minutes of the fire's discovery, the fire had burned through the ship's main electrical cables, plunging the ship into darkness. As all power was lost, the radio stopped working as well, so that the crew were cut off from radio contact after issuing a single SOS transmission. At about the same time, the wheelhouse lost the ability to steer the ship, as those hydraulic lines were severed by the fire as well. Cut off by the fire midship, passengers tended to gravitate towards the stern. Most crew members, on the other hand, moved to the forecastle. In many places, the deckboards were hot to the touch, and breathing was difficult in the thick smoke. As conditions grew steadily worse, the decision became either jump or burn for many passengers. However, jumping into the water was problematic as well. The sea, whipped by high winds, churned in great waves that made swimming extremely difficult. On the decks of the burning ship, the crew and passengers exhibited the full range of reactions to the disaster at hand. Some crew members were incredibly brave as they tried to fight the fire. Others tossed deck chairs and life rings overboard to provide persons in the water with makeshift flotation devices. Only 6 of the ship's 12 lifeboats were launched. Although the combined capacity of these boats was 408, they carried only 85 people, most of them crew members. Many passengers died for lack of knowledge of how to use the life preservers. In all, 137 passengers and crew members lost their lives. The ship beached herself near Asbury Park, New Jersey, and remained there for several months until she was towed off and scrapped. There's much more to this compelling story, and I recommend further reading. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and please let us know what you think in the comments section. Feel free to add more information or corrections, and if you really enjoyed it, subscribe to help support this channel. See you next time on Real Life.